Well, if you consider the time, this is during the patriarchal time, and you consider the limited amount of writings that Eliphaz had to study. When you go through chapter 4 and chapter 5, and you look at the truths that Eliphaz has come to about God, you have to admire the fact that he got very close. In chapter 4, we see that he not only believes there is a God, but he also has a philosophy, a theory that he has established from observation that we can't escape God's judgment. And that's true. You can't escape God's judgment. Also, as you look at the fact that you look at what Eliphaz has established as his doctrine, that he is going to even judge the angels, and that is true. And as you look at chapter 5, it becomes even more apparent that many of the observations that Eliphaz has made are on target. Man is a sinner. That's his natural nature. And that when we sin, we need to seek God. These are truths that we find clearly depicted in the New Testament. And that we should accept discipline. For whom the Lord loves, he disciplines. And that is true also. So as you read chapter 4 and 5, and I hope that you will for yourself, admire the fact that in the days that Eliphaz was living in, that his observations and his theology about God had many truths about them, but it had a fatal error also. And the fatal error, of course, was more faceted than just a single facet, than judging of others. Obviously, Eliphaz was sorely lacking in the fact that he needed to understand that we can't judge one another. We can't see one another's hearts. That final judgment has to come from God. He certainly understands the principle that God does punish evil, and he often rewards the righteous. But he treated them as absolutes, and they're not absolutes. But the fatal error that he makes, I believe, my personal opinion, is in the fact that in verses 6 and 7, that affliction doesn't come from nothing, that there always has to be a cause for the affliction that is sin-based. But the most important error that I believe that Eliphaz makes is when he says man was born for trouble. No, man was born to glorify God. Eliphaz hadn't realized that yet. He hadn't come to the place that he recognized that we're born to glorify God, and that's his greatest desire for us, is that we would glorify him. But in glorifying him, we find the fullness of life. It's a paradox, really, when you think about it. When we glorify him, that's when we find the fullness of God. That's when we find the fullness of life. And that should be our ultimate goal always, is to glorify him. So I hope that you'll take time to read through chapter 4 and 5 and see how many times you can check a box that says Eliphaz has this pretty much right. However, he had some fatal flaws in his theology. It's because he knew a lot about God, or had assumed a lot about God, but he didn't really know God. And that's what we have to strive for. As we study our scriptures, as we make disciples, we need to come to the truth of who God really is and what his ultimate purpose for man really is. And his provision for man to experience eternal life instead of eternal death is certainly one of the greatest lessons that any of us could learn. Yes, it's possible to get really close and still miss the target, and still miss the ultimate goal of God. For man was not born for trouble. Man was born for glorifying God. Is man going to always find trouble in this world that we live in? Because of our sinful nature, there's no doubt that that's true. But is that God's ultimate purpose for us, to find trouble, to sin so that we can be forgiven? No, his ultimate goal for man is to become a disciple, to live for God and to glorify God. For in that, man will find the greatest fulfillment here on earth and in eternal life to come. And that's my thought for the day. I hope that you'll read chapter 4 and 5. And instead of condemning Eliphaz, be thankful that he found so many truths, and be thankful that he truly came for the right purpose. Even though his intentions were honorable, unfortunately, he missed the target. He came, he showed his respect, he offered salvation advice for Job, but unfortunately, he judged Job and came to wrong conclusions about who God really is. And that's my thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day.